Hey, my name is Matt Williams. I'm a Los Angeles-based filmmaker who
I'm Adam Biley, and you're still gonna keep
I
talking.
was going to keep talking, but I didn't really have anything to go with. I was just going
Okay.
to...
I'm from Chicago, and I'm a writer, filmmaker. I got the 9 to 5 job. He's a freelancing fool.
Son of a bitch. Yeah.
And this is what we do.
So I saw the trailer for... the first trailer they put out for Superman versus Batman. And I don't know, the first time I watched it, it seemed like I wanted to like that movie, because it's like you got a new Batman. We're not doing the Nolan verse anymore, so but the Nolan verse opened up so much of Batman to people who had never really experienced Batman before, that it was like, okay, now we've gone kind of this route with it. Where can we kind of go with it from here? Because we found out we like it a lot when we keep Batman dark. The original like Batman TV series, like that's not gonna fly. Like Batman Forever, not really gonna fly. No one needs to get kissed by a rose.
Right.
Like,
but the city's called Gotham. It should be fucking dark. I mean,
it should be fucking, yeah.
Even if it wasn't dark a long time ago, and that's like the new thing to do now, the new fad. I mean, I think the original intention, or how it should work.
And I wouldn't even really call it a fad either, but because, I mean, it's just the proper way that it should be done. I mean, Batman doesn't need to be swiping the Bat credit card or some shit like that, like, or have Bat skates
or bad
whatever.
nipples
or bad nipples. Like, yeah, he doesn't need to have all that shit. Like, that was fucking awful. But okay, so you found how this character works. Now let's use him like in this way and all. So that's cool. And you got a old grizzled Batman, but I mean, I wish that he would look like even older than he was, because I'm assuming kind of the way they're going with this is that Batman hasn't been Batman for a while. Superman comes in and he's like, you know what, this shit needs to stop. He's playing and he's acting like a god and everything, and he's not a god, he's just a fucking alien. And
so wait, does Superman become evil in this? That was kind of the vibe I almost got from the trailer. I don't know if that's the or is he just like misunderstood and frustrated?
Well, I mean, you got to think about what the title is, and the title is Dawn of Justice. So if the title is Dawn of Justice, then they're going for the Justice League. So at the end of it, they're probably going to be like, we should just team up and be awesome together. So, I mean, that's probably...
I'm such an idiot. I didn't even pay attention to that. I just saw Superman like versus Batman. That's like... And then you're right. I think the subtitle was Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, I mean, because they're going to be going into the Justice League and all that shit.
Because of, obviously, the Avengers is a big, successful franchise. And so now DC's trying to get in on that. And it's all a marketing thing, obviously.
Yeah,
anyways...
I mean, that'd be cool to see, like, a great, like, Justice League thing done well. But you were saying just before we started that, like, Superman, like, he's not really that deep of a character. And the argument that people usually make for Superman is, well, Superman's cool and everything because, he's got all this power and he just uses it so properly, and he uses it so well, and he could do so much evil, but he chooses to do good. And that's like isn't that just miraculous and everything? And it's like, yeah, but I mean, so many other characters have the ability to do evil as well, and they choose to do good. And if I'm focusing on with this guy is that he's just fucking amazing, and nobody can touch him or hurt him or anything like that unless they have some special kryptonite bullets, then like I don't know, I'm just not that interested, which is why I never really got into Superman to begin with.
Yeah, he's not relatable. He's a character that's completely fictional, right? And he's too good is what my beef with, like, why I never got into Superman. And now, while I did like kind of like Watchmen and what they did with Dr. Manhattan, who is essentially Superman, and I do think that kind of now you're going to like a jaded character who's like so detached from humanity, and like he's almost like a god, and that kind of stuff, which just seems like what they're trying to copycat with this new Superman series. I do think those type of topics are interesting because it's like, what would happen if you had the power to do anything? Like, you would have to let some people die, and now it's more of a moral issues come to play and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just feel like Watchmen did it so well, and they're just kind of like piggybacking off of that. And I just rather see another Nolan Batman movie, to be honest. And even though I know a lot of people well, not a lot, but there were obviously fanboys who shitted on Rises, which, and I'll say that, I don't think it was a perfect film. I think it had its flaws, but I still think it was better than most superhero movies. I mean, I think Dark Knight is the greatest.
There's been a lot of shitty superhero movies that have been made, like that. I go to a theater and I go with friends to go see, and they're not into comic books and everything, so they ask me like, well, who's this guy, and what's this about, and what's that little thing you were laughing at when they did this, like, what was that about? And I just go, and anything that's a sequel of a sequel, I'm just like, oh god, this is embarrassing to watch.
Right.
Like, I felt that way with Iron Man 3, I felt that way with Spider-Man 3, and I felt that way with X-Men 3, the most with X-Men 3.
Yeah. That's why I think for a threequel, if you will, I think Rises...
I believe in the industry it's called a trilogy, but continue.
Well, the whole thing's called a trilogy, right?
Right.
Okay. A trilogy is composed of the original, the sequel, and the
Fuck,
prequel.
I should have known better than to challenge you on some script.
But anyways, I think, as far as those go, Rises is pretty good, for the third movie. Like, I went in with such low expectations because I was like, Dark Knight was amazing, best superhero movie I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Heath Ledger's dead, so they can't have the Joker. So I just went in like, this is just gonna fucking suck ass. And I think since I went in with such low expectations, maybe that's why I liked it more than a lot of my friends. Because I'm friends with a lot of people who really like shit on that movie hard. And yes, there were parts of that movie that did seem kind of painfully forced. Like the whole time lapse, the whole thing with the kid. Was it Joseph Gordon-Levitt already knowing that Bruce Wayne was Batman? Like, there's some things that you could tell they were written for plot-driven elements because they needed this stuff to happen so that the movie could, flow instead of just character-driven elements. And I'm always more partial to character-driven stories. So while, like, overall, like, I do think the movie had a lot of flaws and it wasn't, like, the best, there's still like scenes that I really loved, and I thought Tom Hardy was awesome as Bane. Every Bane scene. So I think I maybe more liked it as like standalone scenes, instead of just like the movie as a whole. Like,
we talked about this the other time because you like all the individual scenes, but like the separations in between them, aka all the plot holes in Rises. Or the parts that you couldn't connect. Like, they did a great job in the individual scenes, but actually connecting them.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm just looking at half full, I guess, glass half full. So I'll still admit I'm not like defending it as like it was an awesome movie. I'm not trying to like say that, but I don't think it was like a shit movie either. Because it had cool moments, and
it definitely did.
And you know what, like, while I do think that I always appreciate when a movie can be awesome through and through. The plot points make sense, the characters are well developed, all of that. Like, that's the best to me. But a movie like Rises where, it wasn't perfect all around, but it still had good scenes, hell, that still beats out, to me, in my book, hundreds of other movies that just fail on all aspects. So, I mean, succeed where you can, So, that's my take on. I don't know. But I'm also definitely like a Batman fanboy, especially a Nolan Batman fanboy. So I'll put that bias.
Are you have you ever read any of the comics or just of the movies and stuff like that, or?
I read a couple of the comics but I'm not a comic person. My old roommate gave me a couple of them, and I remember like I think I read like The Killing Joke and A Death in the Family. You know, like Joker's...
Killing Joke is very easily, arguably, the best Batman comic that was ever written.
And I also really thought Death in the Family would make an awesome adaptation to film, but I mean it would be hard because you'd have to build up, I guess, the whole Batman and Robin thing, which is tough. Like, I know Nolan didn't really want to touch on Robin, but I thought that was like so fucking dark, where I mean the Joker kills Robin, and then like the cover of the book, you see Batman holding the dead Robin in his arms. Like that like picture alone is just like, I want to see that on the big screen, Like it's such a and like him with the crowbar just beating the fuck out of him, and then he leaves him there with the bomb. And apparently it was all like a call-in thing too, because people are like, call call this number if you want Robin to live, and call this number if you want him to die. Yeah, that's what I heard. And it wasn't the original Robin. The original Robin became Nightwing and stuff like that. So there's I guess there's been 3 Robins in total. So the first Robin was Dick Grayson, right? That was his name?
I don't know, dude. You're in DC universe. You know more about this than I do.
Just a little. I'm not a comic book nerd. Like I said, I just love Batman. So this is my one niche that I know. So yeah, I think it was Dick Grayson was the original Robin. Then he left to become Nightwing, and then Batman got a new Robin, and his name was Jason Todd. And he was like more of like a Boy Scout, like more like a goody two shoes, and that's why a lot of the fans didn't like him, and that's why like they voted him to die. but so he was the one who got killed, and then I think Tim Drake was then the
Tim Drake, yeah,
third,
that one I remember, yeah.
That was the third Robin. He was like the kid Robin, like the little kid and stuff. And also I loved growing up as a kid. I watched Batman the Animated Series.
The animated series is such a badass, like,
because it's like film noir, and Mark Hamill as the Joker. Like that was the one thing when I was thinking about in terms of bringing the Joker back. I had fantasized about the fact that maybe they would set, that it would still be Nolan like running it, and they would go like farther along into the future where like the Joker's age and stuff. Because I go, who could reclaim that thing as the Joker? Since now that Heath Ledger's dead, and he did an amazing job. I was like, fucking Mark Hamill, man. He has the laugh. I mean, his voice, and so like I thought like it'd be cool to maybe like try to attempt like live action with him as like this aged Joker, like old gangster, and just I don't know. I just wanted to hear that laugh on the big screen. I guess was my main thing on that.
It'd be nice. It'd be really nice. I mean, that's just, this is something I was thinking about before too, and I mean, older films and stuff, even older cartoons, I mean, you see them being brought back in different ways now because the people who grew up with them when they were, cartoons and stuff, now it's like, oh, we can make it darker now, we can do a lot of different type of shit with it now. But I don't know, I think it's really just it's like a fucking cop out of writing new material in a way, it feels like. Because it's like, oh, we know that if we put this stuff out, because there were fans of it when they were kids, they'll be fans of it now.
Sure. Yeah, there's a
you know,
nostalgia
and
factor.
it's just trying to bring something back to retell a story that's already been told that already made an effect in their life. I mean, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have made a lot of those films. I'm saying that, you know, the new Karate Kid probably wasn't the way to go. That's I had
Yeah. Yeah, I think that things like Batman and even Superman, even though I'm not as big a fan or whatever, they get like maybe a bigger pass or more of a pass because that's material that has been around for so goddamn long.
yeah.
You know? Whereas, you know, other things, it's like whenever they just remake a movie, you know, that was just a movie, it's, you know, just let it be. Why are you doing this? And what kills me the most is like sometimes I can see updating films, you know, because of technology or whatever. Not that that makes it better, and not that I'm saying that's a proponent. I'm so against that even. But at least I can understand where they're coming from. But then when they go into the genres like comedies, and then they remake those, it's like, what business do you even have doing that? Because
For instance, like which ones?
Let's see. They did the Pink Panther. I think they did that with like Steve Martin.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else did they do. There's been a few. But it's just, you know, I just know
because I know they do it with a ton of action shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that happens all the time. What do you think is like a movie that doesn't need to be remade that'll probably get remade relatively soon?
Oh, well, I know one that made me furious that already was remade.
Which one?
On that, was this Korean film, Old Boy.
Oh.
Yeah, and I didn't even see the American version, so I don't know if it was bad or just okay. I know Josh Brolin starred in it. I think Spike Lee directed it, but it just pissed me off because that movie was so fucking good, and you're like tainting it, and you're now like people are just gonna miss. I guess people, you know, who see the American one probably would have never seen the Korean one, maybe. But I don't know. Now I just feel like if they had the chance, because, you know, I would show that movie to people who would have never stumbled upon it themselves. And it's like now, because the American one's out there, they have a chance of stumbling upon it. And if they had seen the American one first, it totally ruins the experience of the Korean one, which I'm sure was done much better anyways. I mean, that movie... The ending, the twist, I fucking hate twists, you know, like, I don't like when a movie just banks on, like, oh, the audience isn't expecting this, and we're gonna do this, and then, like, just banks on that, reaction. This was, like, the only movie that I've seen where I actually liked the ending, you know, it was one of the strongest, most fucked up endings, and because it was so much against the grain. And I don't even want to go into spoilers, so I'll just say this more vaguely. But basically, the ending of Old Boy, you have this hero who was imprisoned for 15 years, and he is released suddenly. And now he's trying to figure out who imprisoned him and why they imprisoned him. And so the final scene, the hero that you're following, the quote-unquote good guy, is going against the villain, and some things happen that I'll leave unspoiled. And it basically ends with the hero begging the villain for forgiveness and for not letting other things that become known to people that he cares about and stuff. So I've just never seen a movie do something like that. Because normally it's always like you're rooting for the good guy and he kills the bad guy, and it's black and white. Bad guy's evil, good guy is good. There you go. In this movie, to see literally the good guy get on his hands and knees and he's pleading with the villain, and you don't get some sort of satisfied ending where the hero then gets on the best of the villain and then kills him and or whatever. It's literally like he's left doing all this shit and one of the things he does something where he actually like ends up mutilating himself to get on the good graces with the villain because he holds this knowledge that he doesn't want told, and it's and because the hero was actually kind of in the wrong. Like he spread a rumor about the guy who becomes the villain that led to the villain's sister committing suicide, and so that's why the villain takes up this. So it's really like, so it starts out as a revenge story from the hero's perspective, where he's taking his revenge against a guy who imprisoned him, and now it shifts to it's really a revenge story from the villain, and it's I don't know, I loved how they do that. I love how they fuck with the audience because now you're like, I don't know, who am I supposed to root for now? We've been following this guy for the entire movie, and in this final scene, now he's begging for forgiveness, and it's a mind fuck, and I love that. And so even if the American remake did a good job, even if they didn't Hollywoodize it up or Americanize it up, and even if they stayed faithful, it's like you could only do as good, right? You're not gonna make it better, so it's like, why are you even trying if something's already good and perfect as is, leave it alone, just let it be.
Yeah, that'd be like if they remade Jaws or something like that.
Yeah,
like if they remake oh fuck, I mean they
probably will remake Jaws, actually.
They probably will. I mean, did you see the a new poster went up for Jurassic Park, and oh my god, it looks like the new poster of it just looks fucking insane, and I'll put that in the
Wait, has there been a teaser for that yet or no?
There has been.
Okay,
yeah.
I think I saw it. Man, it is just the.
But I just sent you the trailer, or not the trailer, the new poster they put out for Jurassic World. So that should be on your phone right now.
Okay, man, that's crazy.
And it's just this. It's this great white shark. It's swimming around, and this fucking gigantic, crocodile thing / shark that's just like, oh, that's a tiny fish. And this guy just standing at the bottom of it with his hand on the glass, just looking up at it. And it's just, oh fuck.
Is that actually?
There's so much that could go wrong with that. With doing that, it's like, what's gonna happen. That the shit's gonna go down in the park and everything like that. And I don't know. It's become Jurassic Park formula, and I love Jurassic Park. I really, really do. I feel like a kid again when I watch it, but I don't know. Maybe the big question in all this: have sequels and remakes gone too far? And I mean, we have the new Star Wars that are coming out now and everything,
right? Yeah,
and those I saw the new trailer for that, and the new trailer for that just looks awesome. Looks really good.
Yeah.
I mean, you really don't know exactly where they're taking it at all. It's like we were talking about the other day about giving away too much in a trailer, or giving away telling the whole story in a trailer, or just showing very specific parts. Obviously, a trailer shows very specific parts, but my point is they didn't give away any of the story.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
I
really don't know what it's about.
Barely know anything. That's exciting, but no, I'm sick of it. Because it's get a barely decent story together, put it in a fucking cannon, and just blast it out there with a bunch of money in front of it.
Yeah.
And see what happens. And it's is there? Okay, so we've done this Hollywood thing for a really long time. And we have formulas that are set, like the hero's story and stuff like that. And we've had people who understand the rules and they break the rules. But I was thinking about this the other day. And what it is this. It's, you think about painters, okay? How long has painting been going on for? Painting has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. It's one of the most, I mean, there's handprints of, people who put their hands in animal blood and put it on the side of caves and stuff like that. And those are considered the first paintings, and that's really cool. And so that's been done for so long, and it's been worked on so much. Film, photography, it's so new.
Yeah.
It's so brand fucking new. I mean, we've got, centuries into it, barely, or a century and a half-ish into it. And we're calling things masterpieces, and we're calling things, but it's like, has there been a filmmaker that's come along that has made the film equivalent of the Sistine Chapel? You know what I'm saying? It's like, there needs to be a certain amount of time that the art has been around for people to learn the rules and break the rules and make up new rules, and for people to be able to accept, kind of how they perceive it. When one of the first films was ever shown in a theater, it was a train that was coming down these tracks, and people in the theater started screaming and freaking out because they thought this train was really going to come through the screen and hit them. Yeah. And so it takes time to understand perspective and things like that. So have we really seen the Michelangelos of our day in filmmaking? Is David Fincher that person? And I know I'll be like, someone's going to have a problem with me saying this, but I don't think we have. And I think there was rules that were probably made in painting a long time ago. And it was like, okay, these are what you need to follow. You need to do this. This is how you make a good painting. And we have those rules just like that in film right now. I can't even fathom what those rules are, because no one's broken them to the point of being so unrecognizable that somebody can look at it and say, is this really film?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think one thing that's interesting, though, is where film does have an advantage is that it incorporates multiple mediums of art. Whereas, like, a painting is just a well, that sounds like a dick move. Oh, it's just a painting. But I mean, it's a visual thing. Whereas film can incorporate visual aesthetics, how you frame the shot, how you see the actors, how you light the actors, the written story, the words spoken, and also the soundtrack too. Sometimes music is paired up beautifully with footage.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, you can get, if something's done perfectly on shooting on all cylinders, where it's like awesome soundtrack, awesome shots, awesome lighting, awesome character development, dialogue, all of that. I mean, I don't know. To me, and maybe that's just because I love films anyway, so it's a biased opinion. Like, I don't see how any painting could come close to something that's done perfectly on all, which is rare. To find like perfect soundtrack, perfect all of those things in one is fucking really difficult to find. But something that a film that accomplishes perfection on all, or near perfection on all of those different mediums of art in one piece, I don't know how any form of art could top that. My opinion. Yeah. And I think
it's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. But I mean, that's kind of my point. Really, is that we've been combining. I'm not saying which one's harder to do. I'm not saying which one's more difficult or anything like that. I'm saying...
No, I'm talking about from the audience's perspective.
Right. But I'm saying, has the audience even matured enough to be able to... I mean, I just don't feel like the art has matured enough by people breaking enough rules and experimenting enough to really get onto a level of where painting is at. Because, I mean, I try to think of how I can phrase this to kind of get this across the best way I can. Because, I mean, painting's been around for so long. It has a level of mature... I mean, yes, film has different genres, and it's different things that... You know, different chemicals are put in to create this whole entire compound, right? I mean, like you said, there's music and there's all this other shit. And painting is just... It's paint, it's canvas, it's frame, it's brushes, and it's one artist.
Yeah.
So... My question is, has film been around long enough for us to really see the Da Vinci's of our day? Not of our day, but of the creation of that art. That's really what my main question is to pose to you.
Yeah, no. I think so. I think... You know, I think it's a hard comparison because you're comparing two different mediums. You know, so again, I'm not a painting aficionado by any means. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who love paintings that will totally disagree with me, and that's fine. And I already admit ignorance to that. But to me, paintings have never really drawn me in to like the degree that film has. You know, it's never really captured my attention to the level that film has, because to me film is more relatable as something I can take from life experience.
Right, but I'm not talking about which one's better. I'm saying who in film right now is the Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay.
Who can... You can say, yes, that artist is operating on the same level that this painter, inventor, and everything else was. Or, you know, of Raphael, or of any painters that have been... And this art's been going on for so long, and it matured so much. Film's only been around for like 150 years. Do you see what I'm saying? So
yeah, I understand. I think that there's probably a few names you could drop. The one that keeps coming to me, like as you've even been talking about this subject, in the back of my mind, is probably Sergio Leone.
Okay.
And the main reason of that is I'm primarily basing that off of two movies that I think are just perfection through and through, and that's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and then Once Upon a Time in the West, which is interesting because I think The Good and Bad, the Ugly is overall known as, you know, a really great film, but I actually like, and I love that film, don't get me wrong, I think that is a great film and it deserves all the credit it gets. But Once Upon a Time in the West is one of my favorite movies. You know, it might even be my favorite movie now that I think about it. Because of what I was talking about earlier with the multiple mediums of art that it exhibits and that it exceeds at. In terms of characters, in terms of the storyline, in terms of the soundtrack, all of that. It just, through and through, the movie, it's slow to start, but it just like pulls you in. And I don't know, I just, I remember I saw that movie when I was, I don't know how old. I was probably like, I think it was when I was in school still. I was like maybe 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember taking classes on it, and they show this movie, and then after I saw it, I had to show it to all of my friends, like everyone who was available to watch that movie. And the score is awesome, and the shots, the framing, everything seems thought out. The characters are awesome because they're great. There's a great female character. She's she's not, especially for back then, she's not your stereotypical female character. She, instead of just being, the hero's girl, she actually, for self-preservation and other reasons, she actually sleeps with the villain, with the bad guy. And the bad guy is Henry Fonda, who has, for his entire career, has been known as the hero. He's got those blue eyes and like one of the opening scenes that he appears in, he kills a kid, like a 5-year-old kid, and there's just this epic scene with where the protagonist faces off with him, and you don't know the whole reason why he has this vengeance against Henry Fonda's character. And then finally, it comes untold, and I don't know. It's one of those classic movies where it was funny. I remember showing it to a bunch of kids when I was younger, and they first saw it, because the way the movie's, like the coloration, the saturation, whatever, you could tell it's an old film, right? So they automatically have that switch where they're telling them, oh, this is an old movie, so it's probably going to be boring. Mm-hmm. But the opening scene, it is pretty drawn out, and there's music, and it's 3 guys waiting at a train station, waiting for this guy to arrive. And there's just this eerie noise going on in the background, and you're looking at each character and stuff. And then the guy shows up at the train station, and then there's the 3 guys, and they have 3 horses. And the guys here, and he talks to them, and he goes, or the leader of the 2 other dudes says, oh, I'm sorry, I guess we brought, or I guess we're short 1 horse. And then he looks at him and goes, no, you brought 2 too many. And then there's like this stillness where they both know, like, all right, we're about to try to kill each other. And then it shoots up to the clock, and then in quick motion, like everything that was just drawn out and built up just goes really fast, and then the hero kills all 3 dudes. And then that's like where the movie just takes off from there. And I remember once that scene happened, where it was like, oh, it's really slow, what's going on, blah, blah, then all my friends were like, oh, shit. Now I get it. This is a good movie.
Yeah. So is that scene one that you would say is the David or the I don't know, one of the greats that you would think of, like in the beginning of that film?
Yeah, I think that beginning, as well as the scene where Henry Fonda shows up to that family's farm, and basically him and his men kill everyone, and then the ending scene where Henry Fonda and the hero Charles Bronson, that was it. That's the hero, like, face off with each other. Yeah, there's just so many really, really good scenes throughout. So that's where it's one of those movies where it has those scenes where you could just watch like randomly. You like, I want to just watch that on YouTube and just see the scene because it's really awesome, really captivating. But then on top of that, what it has in difference from Rises is that the story through and through is good. The characters are well developed, and just everything about it. It seems like it was so ahead of its time. You know, from my feeling from being, seeing. I don't know. That's one of those movies that I will always revisit and always rewatch, especially if it's with someone who hasn't seen it before.
Yeah.
That's what I love most about. That's what I think I love most about film, actually, is finding good films and then introducing them to other people and experiencing the first time they get to watch something that is good.
Yeah. Or
that to be good.
Yeah.
And then just seeing their reaction and then just talking to them about it after the experience. I love that stuff. And that's something, I guess, that is unique to cinema. And so, yeah, I do think that there's a lot more maybe bullshit filmmakers than there are, maybe painters.
I don't know if I go that far. There's a lot of bullshit artists everywhere, but I would say I think one of my favorite scenes that I've ever seen is the very, very beginning of Inglorious Bastards with Christopher Waltz. When he's there on the dairy farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he comes up and because it's just I don't know if I've ever felt more tension with a scene than that.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know if this happens to you, but like when you watch like a funny movie or something like that, and you feel kind of almost embarrassed for like what's going on the screen. And this was something where it was just like you really feel scared for what's going to happen. But I think that one of the most like brilliant things about that scene was that you didn't see any of the people who were going to die until like 8 minutes into their conversation. Mm-hmm. And they sat down and they started talking like they had all the time in the world. Like they were waiting for nothing. Like it wasn't like we need to advance something. It's not like we're pushing a plot point. It's not like we have to do anything. We've got all the time in the world and we're going to take it. And you don't even really see the mother or the father, or I think there was a son or the other daughter or something like that. You see like glimpses of them like really briefly, but you never get a connection with them. You never get to have anything like that. And there's probably because there's already so much hatred for the Nazis that anybody that they oppress, you already feel bad for or have enough of an emotional connection to that you just feel horrible for them because of the massive tragedy,
Yeah. Yeah, that was I really liked that movie. But what was weird about that movie was the way that it shifted, from I guess almost genre, where at some points it seemed really dark and serious and heavy and you were like at the edge of your seat and not knowing what was going to happen. And then at other moments it was very lighthearted and comedic.
Yeah.
And
but then it would take that away immediately. It would make it lighthearted and comedic and this is fun and everything and nothing bad's oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was almost like for what the rest of the movie was, Brad Pitt's character almost seemed a little out of place. you know, for the overall theme and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really didn't pay attention to that the first time I saw the movie because I was just so like all in and just focused on everything that was going on. But then when I watched it again, it was almost seemed that character was, I don't know if it was maybe more forced or more just awkward fitting in the rest of the movie, but I mean, it still didn't take away from the experience, but I sometimes wonder how I still thought the movie was great, but how much more would it have been if they just maybe kept that kind of dark, impending doom kind of tone, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think it was a good film, but sometimes I think it might have had the potential to be even better than it was.
Yeah, I mean, but look at any other projects you've ever worked on as well before too, and it's just like that had potential to be better. You know, you always know that, like, you know, they say what's it, something sort of like, a film's never done, you just run out of time.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and I mean, I'm not saying that that's what happened with this. I'm not saying that Tarantino didn't get the exact movie that he wanted to be made. I'm just saying that, you know, in retrospect, looking back, there's always more you could do. There's always more you could do. And it's hard to draw that line too. And I'm doing that with The Edge of Grip. And I had a couple people over to the house. We sat down and we watched all of it and everything, and it was great. And when it was done, I realized, I was like, okay, it's finally served its purpose. Like, its entire purpose was to be watched by some people and just to sit down and have a good night and cook up some seared ahi tuna and, you know, drink some beers and, you know, I don't know, it served its purpose. But then after I watched it that one time, I was like, I could change this and I could change that and I could do this and that and everything. Now, I don't know if you ever really get it to where you want it to be. You know, like, I don't, with films, because I mean, there's so much. I mean, you think about film. You got 24 frames per second, and or 23,997, and
you had to say that.
Fucking had to. And
nerd. Sorry.
You get.
I had to do my ogre impersonation. Wow, that's
so you get 24 frames per second, and I mean, you want every one of those frames to look gorgeous and beautiful and perfect and everything. And I mean, you got 90 minutes in a film, generally speaking, and you want every single one of those frames to be perfect. I mean, it's understandable why films cost a fuckload to be able to make, because you want every one of those frames to be perfect. But I think a lot of times people just say, it's unnecessary, you don't need to, they get the story, they understand it, you don't have to worry about that. And I think to a certain extent that's okay, that's all right, because you're working with other artists who are acting, and you don't want to hold them up as, like, if they're really in their part and everything, and you're like, oh, but if I just move the light over just a little bit, then I can get in there, and that'll be good, and that'll be better and everything. But they're in their mode. They're in their...
Yeah, especially Christian Bale.
Oh... I had to go there. You know, I've still never watched that thing.
Oh, really?
I've never watched.
It's really entertaining, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And you know what? When you're on set and somebody else is getting yelled at, it's entertaining then too.
Sure.
But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say too. The props to Christian Bale. Although then again, maybe it's not so much props because maybe it was a publicist thing saying you gotta say whatever. But he did totally come out afterwards and talk about how much of an asshole he was. And, normally I would probably buy that as disingenuous, but the way that he like spoke about it in the mood that he was in and kind of explaining himself, it it sounded about right. You know, it sounded like okay, I could believe, you know, not that it was justified, but believing, oh, that's why he was fucking crazy because you know he was in character and whatever, and you know, I mean I know how it's like to be on sets that just have about a 20-person crew and you know don't have an insane budget and how shit gets stressed out on that. I can't imagine that. That's why I used to have as a kid, I used to have fantasies of working on a movie, and now those fantasies have turned into nightmares. I was like, why would I ever want to work on something that, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake, you know? I don't want that fucking pressure. That would ruin the fun of it, you know? No way would I want that.
Yeah. Well,
that's me,
now that
maybe I'm a pussy.
Now that you've given your speculation, would you like to hear what it like actually went down and everything?
Sure.
So, when I did the Illumination experience with Shane Hurlbut, and for those of you who don't know, Shane Hurlbut was the guy who was getting yelled at by Christian Bale because he was like saying, I guess he was saying like "you're in my eye line" or something like that. The way that Shane had told it multiple times when we were on the tour, because he got asked about it all the time.
Oh, really? People did actually have the balls to ask about that?
Yeah.
I would not fucking have the balls.
Oh, I wouldn't ask him about it either. But I mean, it was something that happened and it blew up and it was massive. And so people are going to be curious about it. And people asked the crew about it too. People who are too scared to ask him. And I mean, the people who don't get that, and it's. I mean, I give absolutely no offense to anybody who doesn't understand something like that happened. Because they're like, oh my god, I can't believe this shit happened. But the fact of the matter is that if you don't get it and you don't understand it, it's because you haven't been working on a real movie set. Because that shit happens every fucking day. Maybe not every day on each individual movie set, but at least once a day, something like that fucking happens. Like something just came out like a little while ago about Dennis Quaid blowing up on set and like having a fit about people being, you know, not professional and everything. But I mean, that shit happens every day because you're not just one artist, you know? It's not just one person working. You're working with a whole bunch of different people and you're collaborating with a shitload of people. And so when things aren't going right, somebody's going to snap at some point. And my photo teacher or was a painter when she was alive. And what she would do is she would get to the point where she would do a painting and she would just be so pissed off about it and have no idea where to go with it. She would literally take an axe to her painting and just fucking destroy it. And that was just her like, okay, I'm set. This is like I'm done with that thing, and I've processed it, and I can move on, you know. And I mean, that outburst has to happen at some point, and for all artists. And unfortunately, sometimes, or a lot of times, it happens on film sets, and it blows up. Not when somebody's like by themselves or something like that, and they can just be like, okay, hold it together for a second, this is fine, it's not a big deal, just let it go. Just let it go. So what happened with that whole thing was, I can't remember where we were at. We weren't in Boston, or we didn't even go to Boston, we went to Austin. I can't remember where it was at, but might have been Detroit. But yeah, somebody asked, and Shane just kind of chuckled a little bit when they asked, and he was like, all right, so here's what happened. And he proceeded to tell a story about how he was in the video village. He was watching what was going on all the monitors, like a DP does, because you want to see what's going through the camera. And then Christian started freaking out about him being in his eye line and everything. And so Shane walks out of the media tent and walks up to him. And to give a little bit of background too, which is really important, from what I was made to understand, was that Joseph McGinty, Michael, whatever the fuck his name is, the guy who directed that film, he was barely there whatsoever. I mean, from the way I had come to understand it, it was he showed up for a little bit and was like, all right, let's, go ahead. And he was gone. And that was it. So, next person in charge, basically the director of photography. So, Shane was pretty much directing this film and being the DP at the same time. And so when he did this, he came out. And so that just to give kind of credence to Christian Bale freaking out, because he needs to have a director on set, because otherwise he'd just... You don't have a director on set. You don't have a lead person in charge that's actually been established to be in charge, that's actually there.
Who's like directing the actors.
Right. Then, I mean, of course someone's going to snap.
Right.
And so, what ended up happening was he has this whole freak out and everything. They end up shooting, they wrap for the day, and then that night, Christian Bale shows up at Shane's hotel room, the big ass bottle of sake, and he's just like, "I'm really sorry." He's like, "I'm really, really sorry." And he comes in, they're like, "Oh, it's all right." They drank the bottle of sake, and they had a really good night and everything. They had a good time, and then the next day, it's up on TMZ, and one of the audio guys had uploaded it and sent it off to him and everything. I was like, "Oh shit!" So it gave the movie such bad press that they're like, well, we have to find a new director of photography. Sat down and had a meeting about it, and they're like, we can't keep Shane on here because he's given us really bad publicity. And they're like, okay, so who's going to direct the movie? Because he's running a director of photography and he's acting as director, pseudo director.
Well, that's interesting though, because I felt like, right or wrong, like from the tapes, what the average audience was perceiving was Christian Bale being an asshole. So I felt like he took more of the heat of, shit's fucked up, versus, I feel like the average person would have seen, Shane as more of the victim, right? And even from your point, and I agree with you, is actually really neither one's fault. It was a matter of circumstances. The fact that maybe the director was too absent to, because that was something that maybe if there was actually a director being involved, maybe that circumstance would have never happened. So
it's a multi-million-dollar film that is now resting on the shoulders of somebody who it shouldn't be resting on his shoulders.
Right. Like his point is to make the images look pretty, right? His job is to be in charge of the visual element, not in charge of the whole movie and everyone who's working on the whole movie, right? He has the visual perspective, which, I mean, I'm not downplaying that. That's a huge component. Obviously, when you're seeing a movie, that's one of the main components. So, I mean, DP is a huge role, but a director is supposed to be in charge of everyone, including the visual component and every other component, even down to, just things running smoothly,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to keep in mind, too, that, I mean, I think a lot of people hear, oh, DP. Okay, so that's the guy who is kind of in charge of what the shot looks like. Okay, cool. And what they seem to forget is that the DP is in charge of all the grips, all the gaffers, the sparks. They're in charge of the image itself. So, I mean, everybody in the camera department, everybody in the grip department, the gaff department, they're all reporting to the DP. Anybody who's doing grip construction, assembling the scenes and stuff like that. I mean, it's a huge role to be a DP. Right. And that's something I didn't. It took me a long time to understand that. Like, wait, the DP is a lot more than I originally thought it was. They play a huge role.
And then so they have all of that, and then also then have to take up the role of director, which is, you know, communicating to actors and all that other stuff. You know, how they're supposed to, you know, read this line or portray this role, all those other, you know, more abstract, out there ideas. You know, be like literally have to be in charge of everything and have all the weight on your shoulders for that. You know, I mean, I felt that in really small, really tiny, meaningless type of projects. So, and that was hard. You know, I mean, I can imagine for a major studio, multi-million-dollar project. I mean, again, that's why I said earlier, as a kid, I dreamed of working in Hollywood, and now, no, I want to be able to, like, do kind of what Kevin Smith did, you know, make movies with his friends and have fun. And I mean, I'm not even saying even that pinnacle of success that Kevin Smith has. I mean, even if it's just bullshit that no one sees, you know, just have fun, because that's stuff that, you know, that stress level I can't even imagine.
No, it's gotta be insane, and that's why a lot of times in the film worlds, I mean, any relationships or whatever, they take a complete back seat. They're no longer important. What's important is the film, and that's it. Period. Nothing else matters. Nothing else is important.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it takes. It might sound amateurish to say, but I don't really give a shit. It takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I didn't get into film to, you know, be able to have a great IMDb credit list. I didn't get into film to win a fucking Oscar, and I'm not going to anytime soon. I didn't get into film so that, you know, I could be recognized, or I got into film because I want to be able to tell a cool fucking story. I got into film because I really like the way the camera looks when it's picking up this soft, warm light, but then this opposing cold light, and it's just, you see this actor or this actress's face in the shadows, and, you know, I got into film because I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens so much in relationships too, where it's like, people are like, oh, well, you say like, oh, how's your relationship going? You guys good and everything? It's like, oh, yeah. Well, why, yeah, instead of like, oh, yeah, dude, everything's fucking awesome. Everything's great. Is it because you're two human beings and you guys lose your shit every now and then? Or is it because you forgot why you fell in love in the first place? Mm-hmm. And forgetting why you fell in love in the first place is, I think, a lot of the main reason why most relationships fall apart. And I mean, I don't want my career to be that. You know, I don't want my career to be something that I forgot why I got into it because, you know, it became a job. You know, right. And I never want my career to be a job. And, you know, there was, I do these, I work for this company called Royster Productions right now, and we film a lot of seminars and things. And one of the guys we're working with right now, he's a phenomenal human being. And his name is Brennan Burchard. And he talks about how he has worked with Olympic champions, and helped them to become so much better. And it's like, how can somebody who's a motivational speaker, somebody who, you know, helps people to create their business and everything, how can he help Olympic athletes? And it's because he helped to remind them that it's a game. Mm-hmm. You know, that it's something to have fun with. And that's why I mean, I know I came out to Los Angeles for a reason that it seemed like I can't almost even remember anymore, but I remember being ashamed of the fact that I had never worked on a big Hollywood set, and that was kind of what I guess my pseudo goal was of coming out here, to really work on big sets and work on big movies and stuff like that, and that type of shit. One of the buddies of mine, he worked on Interstellar as one of the crew out there, and as thinking, even then, well, that's probably where the turning point was. It was just that he's like, oh yeah, I did some work on Interstellar, and he wasn't bragging about it or anything like that. I mean, he was just talking about it because I had asked him like, well, what kind of stuff have you been working on now? Right. And there was no passion in that. There was no love in that. And I think that if you really love film and you don't want it to be a job, you don't want it to be a hobby. I'm not saying that, but you don't want it to be a job, like something you just kind of go in and you do it because this must be done because this is how it's done. Then I don't think the Los Angeles is the place for everybody who wants to be in film. I don't think that Hollywood, I don't think that New Orleans or Atlanta or Vancouver or any places that are really blowing up for film right now, I don't think those are the places where people should go to if they really love film. I think there's a better way, and I'm trying to figure out what that is, and I think I have a pretty good head on it. That's a lot of what the book's about, really, that I'm working on. But, I mean, just because you get the most money doesn't mean that, the most money to fund your film doesn't mean that that money goes to you, and it doesn't mean that that money is gonna, even go into the film per se. I mean, a lot of producers just take a shitload of money and they're like, okay, thanks, see ya. I mean, Shane talked about how he had more money to light a scene on Swing Vote, which was a Kevin Costner movie, which, I mean, it was a funny movie and stuff, and it was, it was okay, whatever. But he had more money to light a scene on Swing Vote than he did to light on Terminator Salvation.
Wow.
Because producers would come in, they'd take the money, and they'd run. Mm-hmm. And if there's so much politics to work around and everything, there's no fun left in it anymore. And I have no interest in not having fun when I'm making a film. It just doesn't inspire me at all to think of, let's make a film where, I don't know, I'm getting depressed. let's make a film where we can sell it, and a lot of people are going to see it, and it's got a great budget, and we're going to have these awesome special effects in it, and we've got big names and a great director and all this stuff, and we're going to make it, and it's going to make money. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of films are about that. They're about money.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of money involved.
There's a lot of money involved and everything, but should that be the reason that a film is made? Because yes, it will make money, or no, it won't make money.
Well, I don't think so, but I mean, yeah.
But I mean, this is part of that, like this evolution and this maturity that I was talking about with painting versus filming, where it's like, I don't think painting ever really had the point where it's like, oh well, we have this funding and everything, so we're able to do this. I mean, I'm sure that played into part in massive things a little bit, but probably not insanely. But I think film has further to evolve, and I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go, and I'm trying to look at, kind of where the puck's going to get ahead of it. But
yeah,
That's got a long ways to go, I think,
Yeah,
before it hits its pinnacle.
but look at some of the contrastly, look at some of the downfalls of painting was that a lot of those brilliant artists didn't even get recognized till after their death. You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, at least now with the technology the way it is, and I had an interesting conversation with my coworkers on Friday, our lunch, where we were talking about good and bad of technology, which I always find is a fascinating subject. But now at least people get recognition, good or bad, more immediately. But yeah, I don't know. It's a different world we live in, for better or for worse. But you take the good with the bad. I remember hearing an interesting saying actually that not recently, where it's like, well, if flight was never invented, there would be no plane crashes. So it's like some tragedy happens, but obviously flight is an amazing thing. We can go across the world in record times and see things, but obviously some bad comes from that. But it's like, just because something bad comes from something new, does that mean that new thing should never have existed? I mean, that would be insane. No.
Well, is that right? And that's like saying, should you go back in time to the Wright brothers who are building the plane and tell them, like, hey, you know what? Guess what? You shouldn't do it because there's going to be some tragedies.
Right.
It's like, don't even bother. Some of them aren't going to work out, so don't worry about it.
And I think no matter what, there's going to be tragedies anyways, in one capacity or another. But there's a give and take with technology. There's a give and take with cinema. But I don't know. That's the one aspect of, and I am in a lot of ways a pessimist. And I look at things more negatively. But
yeah.
I think film, at least overall, I'm more optimistic with that one aspect. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very pessimistic about a lot of film, and more so the audiences too. Actually, I think that they have more to blame, and it's harder because there's such a larger number of people, right? And they're more of a vague. Who are they? You can't just say, oh, that guy Bob, he's a fucking asshole, he's ruining things. No, it's
now with Twitter you can.
Yeah, maybe, but it's this broad group of people, and it's just, I think a lot of times shitty movies are made because shitty people watch them. So we got to start reflecting on ourselves why some of this stuff happens. But
yeah,
overall, I think it's a great medium. It can reach a lot of people, and it can really tell stories that matter. Real life stories, or even aside from stories that matter. It can have great comedies, great things that take us out of the pains of everyday life. And I love this world. I love this genre of life, and but I do acknowledge all the fucking shitty aspects of it and all the things that I don't want to take part in at all.
If you could change one part about the film industry as you currently know it, because granted there are parts of it that you just don't know about, and there are parts of it that I just have no fucking clue about.
Yeah.
I mean, what would, of anything in the industry, if you could just change anything right now, what would you change?
I wish that more faith was given to the artists. I think that the studio execs, and I understand where they're coming from. They're investing, their name, their titles, a lot of money on these projects. I mean, we're going in the millions of dollars. But I think that a hindrance is that they look too much at, algorithms. Like, this is this is the kind of movie we got to make this romantic buddy comedy, and that's gonna yield this many views, and so we're gonna make the same dull gray kind of thing because that yields profits, or we know that works, and that might be true, and that might be the safe route, but if you can find an artist, if you can really find someone that is good at what they do, and if you spend your time learning that kind of eye and that kind of gauge, then they will create something that is against the grain, but that is done intelligently so and well done, that it will, I think, make more money and be more successful than just the mediocrity of what everyone's expecting, because people want to see something that they're not expecting. And I know that's a risk, because you're like, well, how can you tell if this guy's going to create something like that, or but as a producer, if that's your job, like, instead of investing in the basic demographics, like, invest in knowledge of filmmakers, because I think that if that's your business, you should have a good idea of being able to tell this sort of person can tell a good story, because most of the time, the people who tell good stories are the ones who tell multiple good stories.
Yeah, it's not just not the one-hit wonders or anything like that.
Yeah. It's not like lightning, it strikes more than once in the same place. So
yeah.
I think they just have to give more faith to their directors and their screenwriters,
Yeah. And there's definitely something to be said about that, too, because, I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if, we stopped, not we, because you and I aren't, but
yeah.
They stopped investing in films, per se, and they started investing in people. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, my neighbor, and he's working on a business and stuff like that and wants to get some funding for it, and we're talking about that stuff because I have decent head on my shoulders about getting funded and stuff, and he's like, well, there's some people up in Silicon Valley that we want to go up to and we want to talk because we have this great idea and this thing, and that we want to do this. And I went up, I was talking to him, I was like, look, when investors invest in something, smart investors, they don't invest in the idea, in the something. Like, it's not like, hey, we're going to take this idea that you have and we're going to put money behind it. That's not how smart investors make investments. Mm-hmm. They look at the person, they look at what they do, and they take the money and they say, okay, this person might have an idea like Uber. This person might have an idea like, I don't know, fucking anything. And, or the 10-year hoodie or something like that. And we believe in this. So we're going to, this idea that this person has, so we're going to put money towards this idea. That's not what smart investors do. What smart investors do is they say, okay, is it a decent idea? Cool. If it's a decent idea with somebody who's pushing it with every fucking breath in their body, that's when people invest. That's when people invest money, because they believe that person will see it through all the way. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't it be interesting if they started doing films like that? They're not investing money into films, but saying, I believe that you have the potential to make a brilliant film, to make something that's amazing. I've seen your track record. I know what you have the ability to do. Please go make some art. Yeah. And put money behind the person instead of put money behind the idea. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's the right way to do it or anything like that, but I'm just saying that, like, I think that would be, like, just an interesting way if, like, something like that shifted.
Yeah. Well, especially what kills me, too, is that I've heard, I don't know this for a fact, but I've heard this from different sources, so I believe it to be true, that the average budget for marketing of a film is like the budget that was to make the film. So if a movie cost $150 million to make, that means they spend $150 million to market the movie. So that means that the movie now, $150 million movie, costs $300 million. So that means just to break even, they need to make $300 million on a $150 film to break even. So even if that makes, double what the movie costs to make, it's still considered a flop. And it just seems like in this day and age, with the technology we have, with the resources we have, why do they still need to spend that amount of money on marketing? And I mean, this is even crazy because I fucking work in marketing, so I'm like at the same time saying like, marketing's bullshit, even though this is my fucking job. But I don't understand why they can't come up with more creative or I don't know, just better ways to budget that money so that there's not as much pressure. Like, imagine if instead they could, so if for a $150 million movie, if instead of having to spend $150 million to market it, what if they just had to spend $50 million? And what if instead they could have took that extra $100 million and put that into the film? So instead, that's a $250 million film. It only has to be marketed on $50 million, which still, to me, marketing on $50 million, I can't even...
No, it's ridiculous. And I wasn't ignoring you when I was going on my phone, but I wanted to pull this up because there's so many smarter ways to market now. Like, look at this. Ryan Reynolds' Twitter account. When he tweeted out, "With great power comes great irresponsibility, hashtag Deadpool, hashtag official suit, at Deadpool movie." Mm-hmm. Can you see that at the bottom there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 56.1 thousand retweets. 50.5 thousand favorites. So what that means is that it's not like 56,000 people saw that. It's like 56,000 people retweeted that out into the world. Mm-hmm. Twitter, Instagram. I mean, if you were to use those bases alone and to talk about your stuff on people's podcasts and things like that, TED Talks, there's so many easy, like, not that TED Talks would be, but there's so many easy free ways to market now. I just don't understand how it is that people still are spending this much money on marketing when it just doesn't cost that much to do it anymore. It just doesn't. And I mean, if you want to win an Oscar, like, one of the requirements is that you have to run a full page ad in the newspaper, which, why would you want to run a full page ad in the newspaper, considering if it's the people who are going to watch your movie are probably not getting the newspaper anymore, because most people just aren't.
Right.
But anyway, I think there's way better ways to go about spending the same money that you're spending to make the movie as to market the movie. There's just so much better ways now, and more personal ways,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, let's pause it right there because I have to piss so fucking bad.
I've been having to piss for like 30 minutes. But okay. I just like that we were on a good flow. I didn't want to stop it. I'm so glad.
Did you stop it yet or no?
No, should I, or should we keep it rolling?
No, just let it keep rolling. We can just cut that out, and we'll be right back.
Hey,
what are you wearing, a fucking banana hammock or what? Or your boxers just pulled up a little bit too much?
Yeah, I'm wearing a boxer briefs. They're in between. I didn't realize you were sitting there. I actually didn't even realize you could fucking see me. Do you know that you fucking have been frozen for, like, the last hour? Like, your Skype screen.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, now I see you.
Oh, God.
You can't unsee that, though.
So, I mean, my point is that there's other ways to advertise your movie. It probably won't get, retweeted to 56,000 people, but I mean, there are other ways to do it. Like even the test footage. I mean, most people will never be able to get this. The test footage for that Deadpool movie, it got right now it's got like 5.5 million views. The test footage for it, and that's why the movie is getting made to begin with. But I mean, if we have YouTube, if we have Vimeo, if we have Twitter, if we have Facebook, if we have all these different things, and we have different ways to be able to find out who our audience is, which we do, and we talked about that a little while ago about, you can go on Facebook or you can go to blogs or different things to be able to figure out, like, where is my audience at online? Like, what's my film about, and how can I kind of pitch this to them so that I'll get the clicks for them to be able to just watch a teaser trailer for it, or to be able to read about it a little bit, or to do something like that, or to listen to a podcast about it. Like, there are people out there who are just really interested in Porsche 944s, and so I did forum searches and found people who are interested in Porsche, and found people who are interested in racing and stuff, and I started putting out my trailer there a little bit, and I didn't stay consistent with it. I didn't go out to all the groups that I could have, and I got a good amount of views on my trailer and everything, and that was mostly all from that. But here's the thing, is that you might not get a ton of views on your video or whatever. But if you can go out and you can find the die-hard sci-fi stoner fans, or if I can go out and I can find the die-hard racing fans who are all about, German engineering and stuff because they're running in the German touring series, then the people that watch that, your conversion rate of the people who watch that to the people who are willing to pay a couple bucks to be able to watch the full thing is going to be astronomically higher, because that's what they're about. That's their thing. And so I just don't think that production companies have really, or studios have really, kind of dialed into that enough. They haven't really used the internet to be able to expand their marketing as much as they possibly could. And there are so many routes available to be able to promote your film and promote your work, that mainstream audience, or not mainstream, but most filmmakers for the most part, whether it be independent or whether it be studio funded, just haven't gone down. And that's really a shame, but to be honest, it makes it easier for people who kind of have. And that's also the last chapter that I wrote about in my book, by the way. So, I don't know. I think there are other ways to go about it that people are not utilizing. And once they do, I think it's going to be a lot easier for independent filmmakers to get their footage to be watched, to be seen. I mean, I even thought about the idea of, what if I take, like, who am I gonna contact to have host my film and everything? I'm like, well, there's different channels on Hulu and stuff like that. I could, pay $3,000 to get it up on Netflix. I could pay $10,000 and get it up on iTunes and everything, and I could get funding that way and all. But I'm like, well, what if I just do it straight from the place of trying to get exposure? What if I just did it from just that place? Like, I just want to get this film seen. Period. That's all I care about. And I mean, money would be nice, but what if I just want to get it seen? Well, what about going on to different pirating websites and posting asking them to host your film? Like, I know it's a really kind of a weird concept, but how much money are you going to make if you post your film on YouTube? Like, you don't make much money off of the commercials from YouTube. You really don't. And by the way, I think you can just press L and skip those commercials, or Shift L or something like that, and you can skip any commercial. I mean, you unless you're getting 1 million views, or you have multiple videos that are getting thousands and thousands of views, you're not going to make that much money off of YouTube ads. You just don't. And there are much smarter ways to go about making money with your films than just putting them up on YouTube or Vimeo and saying, oh, I'll put an ad in front of it and I'll make 4 cents every time somebody watches the ad. So if you're not going to make that much money off of it to begin with, and especially not going to make enough money to pay for all your expenses, and you just want to be able to be seen, I mean, what do you think about that? Like, the idea of putting your film on a pirating website just so that it can be seen. It's like the one legal movie that they would have up on their website.
Well, I mean, I personally would be for that, but that's because I'm going from, no viewing audience to a viewing audience. Whether that makes sense or not, though, for Hollywood moguls, I don't know. But for me, yeah, I could say that's a no-brainer.
I mean, this is just an idea I just came up with kind of right now. But, I mean, can you think of any, like, really bad cons that would come up if you put this film up on a pirating website?
Like, for me, personally?
For you or for me or for anybody who does that. Like,
no,
I'm not saying about, like, some film that you invest a shitload of money in and you're trying to make some money back on it. I'm saying getting exposure.
Yeah, no, for me, I mean, all I have, I work a regular day job, 9 to 5. Well, I wouldn't say it's regular. I still get to fuck around with cameras and stuff. It's not like I'm just taking notes in a cubicle. So it's a good job. But, in terms of, like, my side creative stuff, those are my passion projects, and my main goal for that is just to get it seen by a lot of people, or
right.
any not even a lot of people, just any people have the same niche, like, genre, whatever, sense of humor. So yeah, if a pirating website could deliver that for me, and yeah, I wouldn't care if it didn't make me any money, because I don't think I'd be making any money off of it anyways, So
yeah.
If that allowed for more people to see it, that's why I got into this business, as a storyteller. It's to tell stories to other people. So, yeah, I would just like as many people as possible to see my work, and that's all that matters to me, because I have a job that pays the bills, pays for the cost of living, and pays for even fun, stuff on the weekends. So I'm not rich, but I got it made in terms of supporting myself. So when it comes to this creative stuff, all that matters to me is that I can share it with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is, like, the best way right now? Or do you, I mean, I'm just kind of curious on what your opinion is on this. What do you think is the best way to be able to make money in film right now from a starting artist, a starting off starving artist? What's the best way to be able to make money in film right now?
I don't know, because part of me would say that if I really knew the answer to that, I'd probably would have quit my job, right? and again, I love my job. I only say that because if I could make it doing something creative, that would mean that I could make it be my own boss, which would in turn mean that I could make it and not have to work many hours a week, right? So no matter what, even if you have
if you're your own boss, though, I mean, like,
yeah.
I don't think that means that you're not going to work that many hours a week. I think it might mean you work even more hours a week starting out.
Well, right, that's what I meant. I mean, like, starting out to get the project launched, but, like, once you got it launched and then you start making money, then, potentially how successful it is, then you can, sit back and ride the coattails of the project, perhaps. But, I don't know. I mean, I would maybe I look at this now from, as I said, I'm more of a pessimist in general, but maybe I'm looking at this more through like the optimistic, hopeful lens. Is that it just comes down to, I don't know. Hopefully, number one, just creating a good story, because while I do think that there's a lot of stupid people out there who just eat up any nonsense, I think there are a lot more people than we give credit out there for that do have an interest in unique stories, different kind of stories, well developed characters, dynamic characters, protagonists you hate, villains that you oddly are slightly rooting for, those kind of stories, that go against the grain. I think there actually is a lot of people for that. So I think number one and first and foremost is creating the content that can appease those people. And then number two is just finding the proper channels to get that out. And what those might be, I think you probably have a better idea, because when I talk to you about the social media stuff, I feel like I'm the more old curmudgeon guy, where like, what is this tweet? Like, I don't know. It's so weird. I understood Facebook and I understood a lot of social media, but I don't know. Twitter was just, it seems like you just had to like pay a lot more attention to it, That was my first and foremost impression, where I think like Twitter potentially is the best way to market and get your stuff seen by other people with those hashtags, and you go across genres and what other people like, and then they'll see stuff. But that's just me trying to understand what the potential could be. But I really don't. Yeah.
Well, I don't think Twitter is the best way to be able to be seen. I think Facebook is probably one of the best ways to be able to be seen as a filmmaker, that is.
But isn't Facebook only really with the people that you're already set up with? Like,
no, because you can do Facebook ads, and you can be able to target your audience through Facebook ads and pay like $20 a week and be able to put your video or your trailer or whatever it is that you're putting out in front of people who are actually interested in those exact type of things.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that existed. But
like, so say like you're doing freebooters and you're like, okay, well, who's going to be interested in freebooters? Okay, well, let me search for people, do a filter of people who like the movie Spaceballs. Let me do a search for people who like Battlestar Galactica, a bunch of sci-fi stuff and different like type of like stoner type of comedies and things like that. And
so I get a bunch of male virgins, all right?
Yeah, so something like that. But I mean, with Facebook, it's you kind of got to be smart with it, I think, because if you put out a video on Twitter, you don't get this full page ad of a video. And if you post your video on YouTube directly, and then you copy that and put that link up on Facebook, you don't get a full page video either. The only way you get a full page video on Facebook is if you upload it to Facebook or you embed it into Facebook. Otherwise, Google is Google, YouTube, or same thing, are competitors with Facebook, right? So Facebook wants you to live on their site. If you put up a YouTube link from YouTube, wow, that was kind of dumb. If you put up a YouTube link from YouTube onto Facebook, it'll give you this tiny little small square, and it won't give you the big one, because it's easy to miss it as you're scrolling down, and if you click on that YouTube link, it's going to take you to YouTube. And Facebook wants you to stay on YouTube, or Facebook wants you to stay on Facebook, and Facebook wants you to keep, scrolling through everything that's going on Facebook. And with Twitter, how do most people use Twitter? Most people use Twitter right from their cell phone. They don't actually use Twitter on, their computers or anything like that. Or, maybe they use it from their iPad, but for the most part, people use it from just their phone. And so, anytime that people are just scrolling on their phone through Twitter, they're more likely to probably skip past your video than they are to skip past your video on Facebook when it has a full page, like here's the trailer type of thing. I mean, the only way you get anything seen is if you actually get it in front of somebody, right?
Right.
I mean, so that's kind of what you got to do. So I mean, Twitter's great, but I think Facebook is better in some ways, but I think Twitter is better in some ways too. So I think it's all different. But yeah, so I don't know. So yeah, so your basic idea on it is that the best way to kind of make money at your art is to be able to kind of get recognized, to be able to be seen by a studio or by somebody who's got the money to say, hey, I want you to make another one.
Yeah, well, I look at shows, I think that the two primary examples that launched that way were It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Workaholics, right? They start out as, I think they're just like YouTube sketch comedies, right?
Right,
and then,
right.
They built a fan base, and then FX or Comedy Central, some executive from that channel looked at those shows and like, hey, we think we can make money off of you. You have a huge fan base already. And, with our production value and all that, we think, we can make it even larger, and we can, at least, it seems like a show that probably will also cost. I think that's the other big aspect, too, is not only did they already have a fan base and they think that they could make money off of them, but they also thought that the show itself wouldn't cost them that much money to make. So, it's a lot easier to invest in a show when the ROI, the return on investment, has a lot higher percentage of happening. That's what Louis said with Louis C.K. with his show. He was granted like full autonomy of like the show, full creative control, could do whatever the fuck he wanted because he asked for like half of what it's on FX, right? Like what FX was willing to give him. They're like, hey, we'll give you this much money to make your show, and he's like, no, I don't want that much money. and so they gave him less, and with giving him less, they're like, all right, well, now we don't really care what you do. Like, basically, because he undervalued his own show, he got more creative control, which actually made the show more profitable. So this going back to my original statement, if the fucking executives just trusted their artists, and I know that's hard to do because there's probably a lot of shitty people who are like, I'm a fucking artist, blah, blah, blah. But if you have someone like, this is why FX is, I mean, I guess they're smart in a way because they did end up giving it to Louis, but if, they did originally because he was asking for way less money than, so it was inconsequential to them to begin with. But if you have an artist like Louis C.K. working for you, I mean, give him the full budget anyways, and then still give him full creative control. I mean, it's just blows my mind, It's just, I don't know. Whatever. But what the fuck do I know?
Hey, thanks for taking a listen to Dying to Shoot. You can follow us on Twitter at MAT_DTS.
And Adam_DTS.